First up, may I please invite Mr. Naveen Chaluvadi, Chief Digital Officer, Yes Bank, to please come on stage, sir. May I also please invite Ms. Lalitha Nataraj, Head Digital Partnerships, Digital Acquisitions and Payments, IDFC First Bank. And to spearhead this session, we have with us none other than Mr. Naveen Surya, Chairman, Fintech Convergence Council. Can we please have an energetic round of applause to welcome three of our leaders right here on the stage. And from theory to reality, let's get the real answers right here. And I'll quickly hand over the proceedings to Mr. Naveen Surya. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know how many of you know that I was part of this conference since it's the first edition. I'm sure Pranay probably knows about it. Deval, I think, he probably knows about it. Neha, of course, knows. So it's always an emotional and a bit of a sentimental moment for me to be part of it. One quick request, can we have lights at the back, please? I don't know if people are sleeping there, so I'm sorry, I don't mean anything wrong, but yeah, make it more brighter, I think. It's looking too dull. Sorry. So it's always an emotional moment for me to be part of this conference and be here with all of you. And of course, payments was my first passion in any case, before it became also fintech. So today's topic, to run and make this session more interesting, I need all your help. So while we're talking about practical use of CBDC, but I'll rather start with you guys asking some question. And please help me. Can any one of you answer what exactly is CBDC? Can someone start with the full form? Any one of you, volunteers, please? Yeah, please go. Please have the mic right away, not just in the end.
Thank you. Hey, so yeah, CBDC, I think stands for Central Bank Digital Currency.
Very nice. Thank you. That's a correct answer. So my next question, because I was to do an overview, but I thought let me rather get the overview from you. That also tells our panelists how much you already know. Can someone answer what's the difference between money and a CBDC? What's the difference? Or let me simplify. What's the difference between money and the currency? Anyone? Yeah, I can't, did I see a hand raise? Okay, go back. That's why I wanted light at the back. Please, lights.
Sir, could you please raise your hands one more time? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Mehul here from Aditya Birla. It's
Yeah.
physical money and the digital money.
Sorry?
Physical money and digital money.
Now, I asked question, what is the difference between money and the currency? Or digital currency, CBDC, let's say.
Yeah, see, money is a hard currency which you carry along with you, and a digital currency.
I'm sorry, that's not the right answer.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else wants to go ahead? Yeah, here. On the right side corner, right here. It wasn't meant to be a kind of a grilling session, but I thought maybe this will get us a good start. Yeah?
Hi. So money is basically any medium of exchange which is accepted between two parties. But currency is basically a fiat which is backed by the sovereign.
Very nice. Can we really give him a round of applause? This is a perfect answer, actually. And a very accurate.
Sorry, Ravneet from SBI.
Thank you. Of course, SBI. So, so legal tender and a sovereign backing is the difference between a currency. So currency can also play as a medium of exchange, can be a money, but not a vice versa. So it's important. Now, what's the difference in a physical currency and a CBDC or a digital currency? Yeah, Pranav, right here.
I think it is a digital form factor of fiat currency, as the gentleman said. It is programmable money, if you want to call it programmable,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, overall, while it's based on a DLT technology, and it's similar to having cash in the wallet, just the way you withdraw money and put it in your physical wallet. This is about transferring it to a, let's say, a digital wallet.
Perfect answer, Pranav. Thank you. So, I think I call it currency on a steroid. Why do I say so? You have a physical currency already in your pocket, right? That works everywhere, acceptable, liquid. But one problem that you all face probably with that is that you cannot use it when it comes to this online in any digital mode, even on the POS, right? Even if you're present physically. It just gets exchanged face to face. So digital currency is a form factor which can actually work in a universal way everywhere, including digital environment, still has a form factor. So, I mean, you all, thanks to all of you, you made my life easier to kind of complete the overview. So we know that RBI has been one of the pioneers, though we started slightly late in our pilot, but we already announced pilot both for retail and wholesale. I think most of you are aware. And we also have not just done the pilot. In fact, we are very kind of pleased and thanks to both co-panelists, Naveen and Lalitha, that these two banks, both Yes Bank as well as IDFC Bank, who are part actually, not were, of the digital currency pilot. Just one last question before I get into the next detail. Do we know the name of this digital currency for India? Anyone? Name? No? It was e-rupee, but changed, I think. Okay, let me, anyone?
It's e-rupee only. E-rupee.
No, it's digital rupee. Digital rupee.
The logo is a ER.
Yeah, yeah. So it's called digital rupee. That's the name. So we have made pioneering effort. The pilots have been launched for both wholesale as well as retail. Not only pilots launched, in fact, we already have now a cohort coming up in Harbinger, which is the Fintech Hackathon, or run by RBI, on the newer use cases. And we'll talk about it in our discussion. But before I go into detail, I'm requesting two practitioners that we have, both the banks who are participating in this pilot, already experiencing that product and probably giving out to all of you, to request to take you through a retail digital rupee demo. And I would request, Lalitha, you will start. So video, please. So just see how it actually works today, especially for those who have not seen it yet or not experienced it yet.
Thanks, Naveen. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have already experienced the digital rupee as consumers? Okay, that's a very small number. So we have a video. Currently, as we speak, there are 13 banks who are participating in digital rupee. Yes Bank and ICICI, SBI, and IDFC were one of the first cohort banks. So we have a simple process on how to register. I'll just play the video and I will voice over. And then we have a demo on loading, unloading, redeem, and transactions. So you can just go through it. If we can get the how to register video up, please. Yeah. So this is available on your app. It's an invite-only program. Allows you to do a device and a SIM binding the moment you download the app. If there are multiple SIM cards, it will ask you. This is basically the SIM verification process. A silent message and device binding happens in the background. Usual way how you install a payment app, you will do it with the mobile password, and then you will set up a PIN later. This process validates your records with the bank records. At this point in time, digital wallet is only being given to customers of the bank, of these 13 banks. So we had a recovery code also, because a digital wallet is supposed to be fully secure. If you lose your physical wallet, you lose your money. If you lose your digital wallet, you can recover the wallet with the money back. You enter a wallet PIN, which is a 6-digit PIN. The wallet PIN has been set up. This wallet address is an address which is silently provided in the backend. You need not remember it. It's linking your IDFC First Bank account. Like I said, you are allowed to download only if you have an account with one of these 13 banks. The authentication, the 2FA, is basically your debit card and your CVV of the card and the expiry date. Your bank account has been linked, and you have downloaded the wallet. So this is what it is. The wallet has got simple 4 functions, which between Naveen and I, we will take you through. A simple process of downloading, device and SIM binding, authentication of 2FA with your debit card and details, and it's given to the customers. It's an invite-only program. If you're a part of any of these 13 banks, feel free to ask them to opt you in for this pilot. You know, for our bank, for example, we have it in the website saying notify me. If you have an account, you can just ask for yourself to be included in the pilot.
If I'm not wrong, it's just like a 2-minute process, right?
Yes.
To start this account, maximum 3-4 minutes, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. Naveen?
Naveen, you may want to talk them through the load process.
Thanks, Lalitha. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Naveen and Lalitha was trying to explain, Now, with this particular registration got done, you have a wallet. You have a wallet or a container where you can actually put in money, right? Right now, today, what do we do when we have a bank account? We walk into an ATM and then we actually go and withdraw the cash. We walk into an ATM and we try to withdraw the cash. The apps that you have seen today, the digital rupee apps which are provided by all these banks which are part of the pilot, is equivalent to your two functions. One is it acts like an ATM, it also acts like a mobile application to handle the money. Or in simple words, it acts like an ATM plus a wallet where you can actually store the money. So when we look at how this load function happens, if you can play the video. So like you walk into ATM, you open this particular application, and then there is a function called load money. When you click on that, obviously you can look at what denominations you want to choose. So you have all the tender denominations that you normally see in the physical world, 2 rupees to 500 rupees. And you also have coins in the form of 1 rupee and 50 paisa. So if you want to just say 450 rupees, you can just tell that this is what is the amount that I want to have. Now when you want to complete this particular transaction, either you can choose the Yes Bank account because this is your Yes Bank application, or IDFC Bank account, it's a IDFC Bank application. Or like you walk into an ATM of Yes Bank and withdraw cash from any of the banks, or a IDFC Bank and withdraw cash from any of the banks, you also have an option to load this particular currency through any of your accounts which is linked on the UPI network. So these are the two possibilities which are there at this point of time, which allows you to put money into the wallet. Now, how you can use this money, that is something I would like Lalitha to continue.
Yeah. So we can go to the transact process. So right now we have two kinds of transactions, which is P2P and P2M. You know what P2P and P2M is all about. I'll just take you through the flow. It is just that, go to the transact video, please. Yeah. So you can talk about send, which is basically send money. Either you can send it using a QR code or you can send it using a mobile number. The QR can be an individual QR or a merchant QR. You just have to click on the send button, decide whether it's a phone number or a QR based, put the phone number, but you will be able to send this money only to the other person if he or she has got a digital rupee wallet. If I have a wallet and Naveen does not have a wallet, I cannot send money to him. It will say that this person is not found with a wallet. So once you send the money, you'll have to just put the wallet pin and the transfer is done. In a merchant transaction specifically, it is possible that you do not have the exact change. The bank manages a change for you. Let's say I have 400 rupee notes and I'm supposed to send 325 rupees to somebody. I authorize the transaction for 325, 400 goes and 75 rupees comes back. The merchant need not return the change to you. The bank's currency chest returns the change to you. So that's all about transactions on P2P and P2M. Naveen, you may want to cover redeem also.
So now you have seen how the money has come into the wallet, how it can be spent. If there is some money which is unspent, normally we again go back to the bank, either a bank branch or a ATM, which is also called as a CRM these days, which is cash recycler machine, and put the cash and make sure that the money is, the currency is again translated into our bank account money. So for that, if we have to see, there is a simple process. You can play the video again. All that we need to do is we need to click on redeem option. When we click on the redeem option, we have an option of redeeming money into our bank account. All that we need to do is click on that and enter the amount that you want to redeem, just like you are depositing cash into your bank account. So once that is there, you just have to select the account, which is your bank account, where you have actually this particular app from, which allows you to put back money into your account. So that's how you can see the entire cycle of money moving from the bank into the digital currency and coming back into the digital currency. And when it is in the form of digital currency, we also have seen how it can be spent on both the P2P transactions and also the merchant transactions.
Thank you. So I would say this is any payment product. The first cycle is always whether the debits and credits are happening right. So we are at that stage of the pilot. That whether the money can be received, can it be transferred, can the accounting of that works fine? Is the interaction that happens between two parties, is it safe, secure, and the integrity is high of that. That's the stage we are in. That said, I think the way we talk about innovation and what has happened with IMPS and UPI, if you were to look at the next innovation from country in next 5 to 7 years, keep in mind it's CBDC. So people sitting in room have to start thinking that in the payment interfaces, how would you work in future, what all can happen. This is going to be the largest, the way we are the leader in fast payment. Currently in CBDC, China is the largest player, but probably it won't be, let's say, it won't be too long that India start overtaking or become neck to neck in this transaction. So what you saw was a retail CBDC experience. Same way RBI has launched one pilot on wholesale CBDC. Naveen, can you explain a little bit more about wholesale CBDC, what exactly we have started with?
Yeah, so wholesale CBDC currently is limited to specific use cases. Right now, you are sure that there is a lot of money flow that happens between the institutions, whether it is for interbank settlements or whether it is for the purchase of certain government securities, all of that. So right now, the pilot is a fairly basic one where we have transactions where the settlement was to happen between one bank to another bank is part of the wholesale CBDC pilot. Going forward, we also believe that there will be multiple use cases, especially with other regulators and also some bit of cross-border transactions shaping up. We believe that the wholesale CBDC will have more and more use cases to come for. What is the advantage? Obviously, this is real-time exchange of money, and this is completely a account-based transaction where the transaction settlement is real-time guarantee and finality is assured.
Thank you. You want to add anything, Lalitha, to
No,
this?
that's fine. So the only difference is retail is a token-based transaction. The printed money goes through. Wholesale, because of the denominations and the volumity, is obviously an account-based transaction. That's one big difference between retail and wholesale.
Yeah. Another way to look at it is like you have NEFT and CBDC, sorry, and the RTGS, high value clearing
Exactly.
through. So same way you'll have different kind of. So Lalitha, all the banks have been participating and you've been actively talking to RBI. Now, this is just the start, like we said, right? What are the things you think that are likely to come and would come to start making it gradually more popular, the pilot to start becoming slightly bigger, and a lot more interesting things that can be added there?
Sure. So when we started the pilot, what did we set to achieve? One is today banks have got an elaborate process of currency handling and currency management, right? Trust me, it was a big culture change for us to go and tell our operations department that there is no settlement, there is no recon here, because it's going to be e-indenting. So as a bank, am I able to indent the currency digitally? It flows into my currency chest. There should be no need for recon because the currency chest process is all on blockchain. The consumer can indent the money from me, withdraw it into his or her wallet. It can go to the merchant, and from the merchant, it can come back into our current account. So this was the process that we envisaged to perfect. For you as a consumer, you may wonder, what did I see? What's there in it? It's all happening already in UPI. But the back end is where we needed a lot of training and pilot and perfection. And that was one reason behind this entire pilot, right? That's one. Second, there's a lot of scanning and verification that happens every time a token passes through the chain, right? You may not have seen a token ID or a token validation number here in the front end, but it's all there in the back end. Third, this is supposed to be cash, right? So people will say that I cannot have technical failures because when I pay cash, I really pay cash, except when I don't have money, right? So our technical failure should be near zero, right? So best of recon practices, best of technology, and really zero technical failures and user experience. These were the big things that we wanted to achieve. Some of us did it faster, some of us did it slower, but yes, all of us are now almost on the same level of understanding in terms of the entire process. Right now, any innovation, any new product will go through its own learning cycle, right? So right now, after we reach a particular stage of pilot, we are expecting a lot of programmability to come into the currency, like Mr. Pranav mentioned. We are expecting a lot of newer use cases to come in. We are expecting tiered access to the currency to come in. So currently, we are saying you should be my bank customer to get the wallet. There are reasons behind it, and all of you know that. I don't need to elaborate on the reasons, right? So we're trying to solve for many of these, and the regulator is guiding us. We are experimenting further on more and more use cases, and you should see some of them unfolding in the coming weeks and months.
Naveen, you want to talk about a bit more on numbers other than some other points for the experience?
Like Lalitha mentioned, it was more about getting basics right. As we speak, I think in month of January itself, we had more than 50,000 users who have participated across the banks in part of the pilot. And I think more than 5,000 merchants have also onboarded. About 7 lakh transactions happened on retail side, and more than 1,000 transactions happened on the wholesale side, as we have large numbers published in January. Right now, like we saw, we were only looking at surface, which is the P2P and P2M transactions, which is basic needs. But we also believe that with progress of CBDC pilot, we will also see some business to consumer transactions or government to consumer transactions. And that is something which we also are very excited about, going through this particular learning curve of how things are going to shape up. As we know, this technology is also completely different. Unlike a past where we had a centralized module taking care of entire transaction, settlement, reconciliation, and all of it, it's completely a cultural change from overall transaction processing and exchange of money. So that is something which we have seen, the teething issues, everything is behind us, and we believe that in future we'll be able to progress on other use cases as well.
Thank you. So I think one question that always comes in different forums that I've attended on this, that currently CBDC is available to a set of customers who are already banked, who already have other options. While the fundamental use case, because you're trying to put the physical currency on steroid, and that may not have a bank account customers. So how do you see use cases evolving from that perspective? I also remember the Harbinger specifically mentioned about 3 areas of the pilots that they're seeking. One is offline transaction using CBDC. They're also looking at more use cases in terms of a retail. They're also looking at, again, transaction per second speeds to be improved and overall scalability on the blockchain. I mean, these are 4 areas based on the current experiences. So do you want to add some more details around it, the use cases that you think could be useful, how a larger ecosystem, especially players sitting here, will also eventually come into this world?
Sure.
And you'll also add the comment.
I think with programmable currency coming in, there will be a lot of unlocks happening on DBT. We are also, like I said, expecting some tiered access to be given as a policy unlock, which will help in making the availability of wallets more widespread than restricting it to our own bank customers. But these will take a few months' time, because all these unlocks will happen over time. The Harbinger does talk about offline use cases as one of the key initiatives, and our bank is also participating in showcasing one of the offline payments, because the idea is if I have cash, I don't need to depend on internet. So since we are benchmarking everything as closest to cash as possible, it's obvious that offline and KYC problems, tiered access problems are solved for.
Yeah, so offline definitely is very important, and especially given that this entire currency is token based, which means just like you have currency notes in your wallet, you have different tokens. I have, say, 102 rupees. It could be a token of 100 rupees and 2 rupees, which is there. If we have technology in the form of secured elements within the phone, why not leverage that particular technology and make sure that the transactions can happen in the non-internet zones as well? It will be very important. If you see most of the segments, suppose if you take an example of auto driver, they may not have a charging mechanism unlike a cab driver has, right? So they would prefer transactions which are probably more conducive to the offline mode. So there are multiple use cases like that, and like we were also trying to, right now today the most important requirement is to have the own bank account for anyone to download this application. But if we were to look at use cases where a business wants to pay, say, payroll to their daily wagers who are actually working in a construction firm or in a labor camp, in those cases, it is also very important that we as an ecosystem along with RBI come up with a tiered structure where the need for KYC is probably limited for a small user. That also will help us to make sure that we...
Like you have in corporate gift card, right? That you have a principal KYC and
yes,
then they take the responsibility.
Yeah.
See, we are very confident that things will unfold over time. If all of you remember, UPI started only with P2P. There was no auto-pay. There were no recurring mandates. Collect started after a very long time. Then we learned and we said, let's suppress P2P collect. So a lot of learnings will go into this automatically, but this is a different technology by itself. So the unlocks we feel will happen in a phased manner, guarded manner over time.
I use this example a lot. That imagine you going to an actual street vegetable vendor. Today, if you try to pay while COVID has created a habit, let's say you pay through a digital money, but let's say if you pay through this, what's the difference? You pay through digital money, the probably process is same, but that money is credited into their account, not necessarily available for them to use. Now, this person actually has to settle their transaction with the wholesaler on a daily basis. If you do it with the physical or rather digital rupee, the money that they have received is actually fungible, ready to use with offline or let's say online, which means whatever money you've transferred, they can immediately use it to pay back from where they have, let's say, taken the product. And I will re-emphasize this point about zero reconciliation and an immediate settlement, or actually there's no settlement, it's a final already. The transaction is equal to settlement. So there is a huge implication for this ecosystem to think, because today you're so used to transaction and settlement process, it doesn't come to your mind. It's literally a complete gear shift. It's a completely radical change. It's not improvement. So think about it, it can change a lot. I'll come to you, Naveen, again on a wholesale side and a global side. Sorry, more than wholesale, global side. What do you think can happen with this in a global kind of an environment with CBDC? We saw China trying to do it, and I'll come to you, Lalitha, also for this.
So, like we touched upon, Harbinger also has a flavor of exploring use cases on the cross-border space. When we are looking at a cross-border space, it's also important to understand that there are many countries which are having a CBDC equivalent structures in their respective geographies. What would happen is, especially with G20 showing a lot of interest in terms of making cross-border payments very easy, and today we also have to understand that India has been acknowledged as one of the major countries, or I think leading countries, which actually receives inflows from people who work for their families outside India. So with this background, there would be a definite possibility of having a multi-central bank kind of arrangement where the money flow between countries can be settled between the CBDCs of various G20 countries to begin with, and probably expand beyond the geographies. There are also various attempts which are being made to see if this can be first attempted to, say, look at South Asian countries as the first pilot and then take it to larger geographies. But a lot of possibilities is what we see, and to make it happen, the first step is to have a retail interface which can enable it to happen. Second phase is to make sure that there is a wholesale CBDC kind of settlement between the initiating entity and the RBI or any other settlement entity that we are talking about. And then, of course, the multi-central bank framework will also make sure that the money moves from one currency to another.
So do add your comment, but also clarify about India not being 100% capital convertibility. So how does that affect the global CBDC environment?
No, so I think we, to begin with, there might be a lot of bilaterals for accepting this, and settlement is what we feel to begin with. It is not just cross-border. Even when foreigners come to India, instead of giving currency and taking Indian rupee, probably they can take digital rupee. But again, the acceptance infra will have to become better and scalable for that, because currently the infra that is being put is a separate CBDC QR, and for obvious reasons, because that's the way the pilot was envisaged. So once these are, right, to begin with, we expect these to be bilaterals because of various reasons known to us, but we feel that this is one pressing and very important use case which is and will be solved for in the near future.
Thank you. So I have a choice that I have a trick question, or rather a controversial question, which is around 3 myths and misconceptions. So one is around financial inclusion, anonymity, and one is UPI versus CBDC. So there is a choice. Either I go with that question, or if you guys have more questions, raise all your hands, those who have a question. So I decide that whether I go with that, or I can, I think just less number of questions.
Now that you've given the
3,
clues, they
4,
will ask the
5.
questions on those lines.
Okay, so maybe let me balance. Let me ask both of you, and start with you, Lalitha, that just give very short one-liner on these 3 things, and then we go to the questions, and then we cover in the questions some of those. Yeah?
Since they are trick questions, This is more anonymous than any other digital form. Simple reason, it does not hit your bank account directly, right? It's a wallet. There is one net off amount of load and redeem which hits your bank account. The intermediate transactions that you do on this do not hit your bank account. So to that extent, it's more anonymous than the digital transaction. That's one thing that I would like to talk about. Second one was on KYC, right?
No. Second one was UPI versus CBDC
Okay.
and financial inclusion.
See, again, it was not looked at as a competing product for UPI. It was looked at as one more product, which is basically a digital cash. Currently, if you saw the structure, if you saw the demo, if you saw the terminology that we used, right, PIN setup, recovery, P2P, P2M, it's all the same. We are so glued to the UPI market, all of us started thinking like that, and it's easy to explain using those terminologies. But that's not the thing, right? Each of them will have their use cases and their own niche markets. Like I said, it's possible that CBDC cracks cross-border better than UPI. It's possible that the last mile of not having a bank account is cracked better by CBDC than UPI. Both of them will find their own sweet spots, like how multiple credit cards find their own sweet spots in our wallets, right? So that's where we think it will reach, and we're trying to keep these rails as separate as possible because they have to operate without leaning on each other, and they will have to have markets of their own.
So, with respect to the unanswered question on financial inclusion, today we know that there are total about 700 million withdrawals which happen across the ecosystem, out of which 100 million withdrawals that happens are primarily on the Aadhaar-based cash withdrawal network. All of this is primarily driven by various subsidies which the government is trying to give for various schemes, welfare schemes. Some of these could definitely potentially be use cases for CBDC in future. And with respect to difference between UPI and CBDC, the single most thing is, in case of CBDC, there is no intermediation of handling the funds. The funds directly move from one user to the another user, unlike in any of the payment system where there is a central party which actually takes care of the settlement. So that definitely is a huge difference for us.
I think I'll clarify UPI versus CBDC question a bit more, because first of all, they are completely two different things. You're talking apples and oranges. Or actually, you're talking probably vegetables and fruits. It's that different. One is a form of money and a currency. The other one is a messaging system to transfer that money from one person to another or one person to a merchant. So that's more like a medium or a process of using a money or a currency versus the other is the currency itself. So that's a fundamental difference. So if at all they're not competing, it becomes one more use case for UPI in future. Like they take today money from a bank account, now credit card is added. In future, CBDC becomes one more use case. Or that becomes one more form factor to be transferred. So I just wanted to add that clarity. I think we can go with the questions. You want to add anything? Okay, questions? Okay. Start with Pranay, then Deval, and then here, I think left to right.
So I have a couple of questions. First question is to Lalitha. You spoke of anonymity. Now, especially, it's very important for the informal economy, right, that we have in India. See, this is based on DLT, blockchain, right? So the source of money can always be traced. Now, to the common consumer, how would you convince that this is just like cash? Let's say I give you 10,000 rupees. Nobody would know the source of that funds, that 10,000 rupees lying in your wallet. So with DLT, you can definitely trace the source of funds. So how would you address that anonymity piece? That's the first question. Then I have one more question.
Yeah, so the simple answer is yes, I know your mobile number, so it's not anonymous, right? But if you look at it from what the regulator sees, the regulator will not know that this money is with this person with this mobile number. They will only know that so much currency is floating in the system, so much is with this particular bank, and the bank is a custodian of so many wallets. Now, does the bank know you and your mobile number? Yes, we do. But are we supposed to report it back? We are not supposed to report it back at this point in time. Is this equal to anonymity? That's why I said it's more anonymous than a digital transaction today, because I do not need to do AML or I don't need to report it back today. There are elegant ways in which the regulator is trying to find out how this can be solved for. At this point in time, it's not a completely solved for use case. So we are just, passing this off by saying it's more anonymous, and the aggregated view is only available with the regulator and not the individual view.
I think the simple answer is that if you're looking for anonymity, go to Bitcoin. If you're looking for an organized, formal system, it is CBDC. And like she said, it's more anonymous than other systems, but not anonymous.
Sure. Second question is, UPI is a payment system. This is similar to cash or like cash, but again, you either pay to a mobile number or you scan a QR. The QR codes are different for account-based transfers and for CBDC. One is it would obviously confuse the consumer. I'm saying people like us might be more knowledgeable, but the common man would get confused. Second is, I understand the case for wholesale, right, cross-border, but is retail a very strong case for CBDC, considering, account-based transfers are available and there are so many options? And last is, would it accelerate the de-dollarization exercise?
Sorry, what's that?
The de-dollarization.
Yeah, so if you have to look at this use cases, maybe we are primarily looking at UPI ecosystem, which is very popular in the urban and probably a digital native kind of customers in the rural segment as well. Like I mentioned a few minutes back, still there are about 700 million cash transactions, cash withdrawals which are happening within the country every month. And this withdrawal would mean, each and every withdrawal would mean at least 5 to 6 transactions at a average level. When someone withdraws a cash, they must be doing these transactions. Why are we doing that? That is probably because the answer also lies in how many of these customers' accounts are UPI active in the rural areas, especially some of these segments where we may not be able to relate to as we speak. That is why some of the use cases like business to consumer or government to consumer would play a big role in terms of identifying those sweet spots where users have no option but to use cash today. Aadhaar-based withdrawals are happening about 100 million transactions every month, which contributes to about 30,000 crores, right? These transactions where customer is withdrawing cash is actually using this cash for daily purposes. They also have a bank account, right? Because the bank account is today receiving the funds as the first place, and secondly, they are using the AEPS network to withdraw the cash. That is where we believe that there would be some sweet spots where we'll be able to explore. It's all about us who will try out different things and find out where this adds more value than the other areas. Lastly, there is also a requirement today in some of the segments, the UPI collections are not ubiquitous. While it is quite okay to believe that entire mobility or transportation takes care of the UPI, most of us would find it difficult to convince an auto driver to take a UPI payment as we speak, right? So there are segments, we believe that there will be use cases.
Yeah, I think it's a big financial use case. We will talk about it. I think we will keep questions short and also answers short, please, from our side, so that we can address more.
Okay. Hi, two questions. Question number one is, when is the offline application going to be ready? Because one of the key successes, you spoke about China, but another use case has been Australia. Both of these use cases, offline has been extremely instrumental in getting CBDC live. That was question number one. Second is the question number two, is when is the associated infra for the acceptance? Like, let's say a withdraw at ATM, or let's say a withdrawal at POS. Sure. Because this is an interoperability. I mean, when is this going to be live? That's question number two. And one more question One more, Naveen, that's it. Again, right, I think from a security perspective, right, app cloning, fraud liability, who owns the risk?
So you want to go first on the
so
first?
I think offline is the closest because as Naveen mentioned, there is also a harbinger, RBS looking for demonstrations and partnerships. But as you would appreciate, it is not a very easy thing to crack for the same reason that you mentioned about in terms of security, privacy, how much should I reimburse when there is a problem, etc. So we are working on both the technology and the process for offline. The second question.
If I was to hazard a guess, it's about 12 months away. Because first the harbinger
easily.
cohort.
First the harbinger, and then the ones will take even longer because they are still at the conceptualization
Unless
stage.
the ecosystem here comes up with a lot of interesting, innovative solutions. Yeah. The last question, I think it's clear, Deval. I think it's a currency, right? So unless there is a failure, the transaction liability, there's no liability, right? You're talking about the fraudulent scenarios. I think those are obviously under consideration and it will evolve. But you know the best practices already. In fact, you are the one who will probably bring solutions.
So right now, the operational issues around the entire cyber technology risks or operational risk are managed by the intermediaries, which is banks in this case.
Okay. So I think we have room for 2 more questions. I'll skip you today, sorry. Let me go to others.
So
We'll talk offline.
backbenchers, please.
Back, okay.
Yeah. So, so very good session. A couple of questions which are there in my mind and is being discussed on various communities is about when you say CBDC is equal to cash. So suppose I take out a 500 rupees currency note. How do you transfer the number of that currency note into the CBDC that is digitally, which is getting generated? That is one question. Maybe you can highlight how exactly you are addressing that. Second question, already on anonymity is being covered, and Lalitha has rightly given some good input in terms of.
Sir, can we restrict to one question? I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
looking at the clock. We just have,
I'm just covering.
I think your first question is interesting. You want to
And
answer?
why the one important question is why banks are promoting CBDC? Because there is a
Why banks are
the
promoting
Reserve Bank of Australia has warned that this could replace Australian dollars and could result in people avoiding commercial bank. So are banks doing mistake in promoting CBDC?
So the first one, which is pertaining to your question on how is this number translated, we have to understand that entire retail currency management is today token based, which means for any denomination, the token is created and the amount is taken care of in that particular piece. So these tokens are managed across various intermediaries, and they have a information of where this particular token lies at this point of time. With respect to your second question, which is why are banks promoting? We have to understand that if as an ecosystem today we are spending about 5,000 crores worth of rupees every year to manage currency is what RBI said, right? That is one thing. We also have to take into benefits that in a long run time, it will also have a lot of ESG benefits where we'll be able to digitize this entire physical currency and be able to make a difference to the entire ecosystem. It's a long-term game. There are no short-term wins, but I think it's worth doing this particular initiative.
Very good answer. Yeah. One last question. Okay, 2 last, final. But keep it brief, please. Just one question. To these 2 ladies, please. Can you just get the mic? Time is up, so.
We are running on borrowed time already.
So please keep it very brief.
Can I ask? Hey, hi, Naveen. Naveen, my question is specifically on the use case with regard to the cross-border payment. When this cross-border payment is expected to come, because we have seen, I myself is driving the merchant acquiring in the ICICI Bank for the CBDC, and I have experienced that because of the UPI, the end customers have little reluctance in terms of loading the money in the wallet and experiencing the transactions.
Sir, I'm sorry I'm intervening. I think your question is very good, but I will say currently abhi to uska cohort bhi nahi aaya hai. So there's a time. First, let them solve the offline. But you're right, that is a huge use case. जो Singapore or India का corridor है, there might be some work already happening there on the fast payments में. I'll just come to this last question and then we are done. Thank you. Sorry, I had to cut short because of the time. But happy to connect offline probably.
We can engage offline.
Yeah, since we mentioned that there is no reconciliation settlement, so all the costs associated with, handling of physical currency for bank and the entire ecosystem and the engine that goes to manage physical currency. Now with CBDC, since these costs will get eliminated, this whole process of generation of currency, redemption, sending, the whole infrastructure, the costs, so would it be a cost model for the consumer or the merchant? How will you monetize this for the ecosystem? If anyone's participating in this, how will they make money? That's number one. Number two, since this whole technology is backed by wallets, will also non-bank PPI issuers, for example, be allowed to have a play and offer their wallets for this?
Yeah, good.
So I'll answer the second question first. Right now, as the policy permits, banks are allowed to indent cash, banks are allowed to distribute cash. So the second question is answered in that manner, that if you are allowed to handle cash today, you will participate in the ecosystem. That's why it's restricted to the banks. The first one, we will have to see how it unfolds. All of us have committed a certain cost for this infra. The infra will also become better over time. The cost of the infra currently is probably X. It might become half X or it might become 2X over time. We'll have to see it in the time to come. We are expecting some amount of savings in cost because of transportation costs and printing costs. So we feel that this infra will pay for itself. May not be a money-making thing, but I think it's important to travel this path. The costs will even out, and the infra will settle over time. That's our take on that. But very, very early days. Really not thought about it as we entered into this game.
Yeah. You want to add anything?
So tech processing, TPS, that is one of the, again, idea of Harbinger. TPS processing is very, very important because we are talking about huge volumes in future being routed through the CBDC rails. So that cost will be there, but that cost we assume would be much lesser than the overall currency management cost as we speak.
Thank you. So I think thanks to first all of you for being very participative. I'm sorry, I think we are already running ahead of time now, 2 minutes, so it's overrun. But again, thank you all of you for being a very active participants. And thanks to two eminent panelists, Lalitha and Naveen. Thank you.
Thanks, Naveen.